Hey, my name is Lydia, and today we're going to be talking about 3 reasons why the scale may not be moving, even though you're doing everything right. So, I talk to a lot of women, and they come to me and they're like, hey, Lydia, I am eating protein, I am eating healthy, like, I make all my own food, I cut out sugar, I only drink water, I'm working out, I'm going to this boot camp, all of these things, and yeah, I still can't lose the weight. Like, what is going on? And so, usually, when I dive in and I really begin to ask them questions, see food logs, find out more about them, I find that these are 3 really common issues that we need to tweak. So, we'll go ahead and we'll dive into these. The first one is really taking a step back from the scale and considering like scale fluctuations. And so I always want to encourage people to trust the process and remember too why we are doing this. It's beyond the scale, right? It's beyond fitting into a certain pant size. Like those aren't bad things, but we also want to remember like how are our energy levels? How is our fitness level? Like are we able to move well and take care of ourselves well? Because that's really why we're doing this, right? We want to just feel good. But also remembering like what is a healthy rate of weight loss? So a healthy rate is about 1 to 2 pounds a week. And so sometimes people might think, okay, I better be seeing the scale consistently going down every single day a little bit, right? And every week see that 1 pound weight loss. But we want to focus on it's an average. And so I want you to like zoom out. And I do this with my clients, right? So I'll look at where we started tracking and we have a graph and it'll be up and down, up and down, up and down. But we want to see the overall trend over a couple months that, hey, we are seeing a downward trend. And it may not be like a straight line down, there may be some ups, right? And weeks maybe where the scale's a little higher, days where it's a little higher, but ultimately we're seeing that downward trend. And so be patient with that. And also take note of when do you weigh yourself. So sometimes women will weigh just after they've had a big meal just to see what the damage is. And they're like, oh my goodness, I just gained 5 pounds, right? And so we know, hopefully, logically, we did not gain 5 pounds, right? Um, Overnight. That just doesn't happen. And so you want to actually, I recommend weighing yourself a little more often and being consistent on when. So weighing yourself like first thing in the morning, because all of these things will impact the scale. Whether you've eaten, used the bathroom, drank water, the time of day where you are in your menstrual cycle, all of those things will impact the scale. So sometimes by weighing ourselves more, we can kind of break up that emotional tie of being afraid of it. And if that's something you really struggle with, I also would encourage you to take progress pictures and measurements because that can really show you too how your body is changing. Because sometimes we are having physical changes, but they're not always seen on the scale. So you have to remember the scale, like your body is more than just fat, right? So you have bones, you have muscle mass, you have organs, water, all of these things that are playing a role in the scale and how much you weigh. So just remember that. And when you see that scale maybe spike up a little bit, don't fall into the trap of getting discouraged and then throwing in the towel. And then you start doing all the self sabotage and going off the rails because that obviously is not going to help our progress. So continue to trust the process, focus on, your health, doing things that support your body and giving your body the right food, exercising, and doing those things. Sometimes it's more than just the scale fluctuations, though, right? Sometimes there are hidden calories. So sometimes we think we're eating in a caloric deficit, which is mandatory to lose weight. Like we do have to have a decrease in calories in order to lose weight. And sometimes we think we're doing that, but we're not. We might think we're eating healthy, but healthy doesn't always mean they're going to lose weight, right? So I've seen this as a trend, especially is really nutrient dense foods, all these superfoods, raw milk, raw butter, cheese, sourdough bread, all of these things, they're great. Like if you enjoy them and tolerate them well and they help you, that's awesome. But we do have to remember they have calories and these are very calorie dense foods. There's a lot of energy to them because they are mostly fat. And one thing to know is 1 gram of fat has 9 calories in it, and 1 gram of protein or carbs has 4 calories in it. So we see there's a lot more calories in the butter and the milk and this high fat stuff. So having a lot of it is going to add a lot of extra calories to your diet. And while fat is good and necessary, a lot of times we all go to the extreme of like, oh, it's good for me, therefore I can't have too much of it. And well, we can't, especially when our goal is actually weight loss. And with that, we want to also look at protein, right? So even if you are like, hey, I'm eating a high protein diet, why am I not losing weight? You might want to look at the types of protein you are selecting. So if you're choosing proteins that are high fat, so like, pepperoni, sausage, high fat beef, like these have more fat to them. So therefore they have more calories. So if our goal is weight loss, we're probably going to want to choose some more leaner proteins to accommodate for the fat content and to help us be in a caloric deficit. Especially if you're having a lot of those things like cheese, dairy, all of that, we're going to want to have some lower calorie lean proteins to still get that in. Another thing is eggs, right? So that's one reason we might want to add some egg whites, right? Because the egg yolk, while it is good for us, it is a lot of fat content. It's going to be higher calories. So maybe having a couple whole eggs, but then we add in some egg whites to get that protein content up without adding in extra calories. And number 3 is actually under eating. So this is like twofold. There's two sides to this. One is we actually are under eating chronically. And I've had clients come to me where they're eating maybe 1,000 calories or so, and they've been doing that for a long time. And their metabolic rate is actually decreased to adapt to that, to where, hey, their body's going to hang on to that in order to prevent them from just constantly losing weight. So this can be problematic because it can actually be detrimental to our health, because our thyroid gland and our metabolism ultimately will start to slow down. What this means is we're probably not going to have as good workouts because we're not going to have good energy. We're probably going to have energy crashes throughout the day. We're probably not going to be building any muscle or maybe even losing muscle because our body is going to use that as fuel. Ultimately, that's not going to help your body composition or really give you the body that you're looking for in a strong body. Another thing that can happen is if we're under eating certain times, but then overeating later. So you might feel like, oh, I skipped breakfast, I skipped lunch. Therefore, I have all these calories I can eat for dinner, and you're super hungry. And so you go to town, right? And so a lot of times that's going to lead you to choosing more palatable, like hyper palatable foods that are more calorie dense, like high fat, high sugar, high carb, lower protein. Usually when I'm super hungry, like hangry, I'm not gonna go grab like the chicken and broccoli, right? I'm gonna get something that has a lot more calories to it, that's really tasty, and that's really easy to overeat. So it's not uncommon to eat less throughout the day, but then you have all of this food and you're snacking on all of these like empty calories, not very nutritious foods in the evening. And then you wind up at least at maintenance or over calories, meaning you either stay at your weight or you actually gain some pounds. So these are just a few reasons of why you may not be seeing the scale move in the direction that you want to. If you have any questions on these, or maybe you are doing all these things and you're like, hey, it is still not working for me, let me know, leave me a comment, and I'll be sure to get back to you. Be sure to like this video and subscribe for future content.